name is Iman Khwaja. I'll be the moderator for this session, In Sickness and in Health, Healing and Strengthening the Marital Bond. This session is a collaboration between the Family and Youth Institute and the Mass Convention. So the Family and Youth Institute is a mental health research and education institute that strengthens and empowers individuals, families, and communities by promoting youth development, healthy marriages, effective parenting, and mental health and well-being. We have a lot of other sessions with the FYI today. Most of them are going to be in this room. So if you want to just hang out in this room until 4 p.m., you'll be golden, inshallah. And alhamdulillah, by the power of Allah, we were brought here today. So inshallah, make sure to take the benefit from these sessions. Make sure to take notes, share those notes with your families, with your communities, inshallah. And if you are sharing them on social media, please tag the FYI. Just do hashtag the FYI so that we can share the benefit, inshallah. And I did already announce that survey, that study on Muslim youth. Again, that's for ages 13 to 20. So if you know anyone who is between those ages, please encourage them to sign up for the study. Again, we are passing around the cards at the table. You can also sign up with the QR codes on the screen. And we will be doing questions through the Mass ICNA app. So if you do not have the app, please make sure to download it, find today's session, and you can submit questions through there. You can also submit them anonymously on the app if you'd like to do so. And with that, I do want to introduce our speakers for today. So first we have Dr. Samira Ahmed. She holds a PhD in clinical psychology and has a private clinical practice in Canton, Michigan. She has also taught several classes at a variety of universities across the nation. She is known for her contributions in promoting Muslim mental health through the publication of Counseling Muslims, the Handbook of Mental Health Issues and Interventions, which is the most cited internationally known academic book on Muslim mental health. Dr. Ahmed is a leading expert on American Muslim youth and has produced numerous groundbreaking publications, including The State of American Muslim Youth, Uplifting Black Muslim Youth, The Prevalence of Risk Behaviors of U.S. Muslim College Students, and Alcohol Use Among U.S. Muslim College Students. She also serves as the Associate Editor for the Journal of Muslim Mental Health and mentors up-and-coming Muslim mental health researchers. Dr. Ahmed has been invited as a subject matter expert to events organized by the White House, the Health and Human Services, the Substance Abuse Mental Health Service Administration, and the Department of Education. She has also been cited in numerous media outlets, including the New York Times, the Washington Post, and the Atlantic. Dr. Ahmed is best known for her ability to transform research into practical resources tailored to the American Muslim community. And she has been a community activist at both the grassroots and national levels for over 30 years, including serving as the vice president for the MSA National and a board member for the Muslim American Society. And our other speaker is Dr. Nadim Siddiqui. He currently serves as the Family and Youth Institute. He serves the Family and Youth Institute as the chairman of the board of directors, a business manager, and a community educator. He holds a PhD in finance from York University and works in the area of strategy and analytics. In his professional career, Dr. Siddiqui works in the financial services with clients from across multiple industries as a management consultant, as well as taught BBA and MBA classes. Dr. Siddiqui is a trained marriage educator and has been a youth mentor and trainer for the Muslim Students Association and the Muslim American Society. He has been extensively involved in community organizing at both the local and national levels for over 25 years and has served as the national chairman of the Muslim American Society from 2012 to 2016. So mashallah, we have two experts here with us today, so please make sure to take benefit from the session. Make sure to pay attention, take notes, and use the app to answer questions, inshallah. Can you use both microphones?
Can you swap spots?
Yeah.
You sit over here.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على رسول الكريم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Wanted to ask if the people who are in the first two rows on the left-hand side, if you guys don't mind moving this way, because I feel really disrespectful to you, because I can't really see you as I'm talking. If you don't mind, no one's going to judge you or anything. We just want to be able to see everyone, make sure everyone's part of this conversation.
That's why I moved over. I asked for the swap because I couldn't see folks. And I was like, let me just move here. I can see folks a little bit better. Iman, sorry. Iman, not Huda. Sorry. That's what happens when you Hey, I'm an old man. I mix up kids' names, all right?
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. So, inshallah, today we'll be talking about in sickness and in health. And this is kind of an annual tradition that the two of us have kind of done because you get to see dysfunctionality on stage, and we work through it with you guys. And so we like to keep it real.
So one thing that I don't think was announced, and in case you're wondering if you're reading in between the lines, we are married. So I think people we're talking about dysfunction on stage. We're like telling each other jokes on stage. We are married, so this is kosher. It's all good.
And he has to announce it because for many years we didn't publicly tell that to people because
it was not a secret marriage. There was a reason why we didn't tell publicly. Yeah, you gotta explain things. You can't just.
Yeah, he's my translator. Okay, so part of it is because because of my profession as a clinician, it is oftentimes it's not something that I really want to share because people may feel uncomfortable for whatever reason. But anyways, this is we're here. Hopefully, we'll have a great time, inshallah. I think we usually end up have a good time, and we have to have a session afterwards for us to kind of decompress and understand what we talked about. But we do want to thank you all for joining. For those of you who, this is part 2. Part 1 was yesterday. We talked about, when you think about conflict, you want to understand yourself and what are the issues and challenges and how you yourself are contributing to the situation. And today's session is kind of the in-between of what's going on, right? So for those of you who missed it, I apologize. Maybe we can do it again next year. But for those, so just so you know that everyone realizes that there is a part 1 where you do need to work on yourself. It's not just about the other person, okay? The second thing is we're also going to go back and forth with each other, and that's why we're sitting as opposed to.
Just leave it here.
Okay, this is for that.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, okay, both of us.
So part of what we want to do is also kind of talk about things, and so sometimes I'm going to forget things, and he's going to say things to remind me of, and everybody else of an important point, and sometimes it's going to be the other way around. So we're not trying to be disrespectful to each other on stage. We just kind of know our rhythm, inshallah. Okay.
Next. All right, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So I'm going to leave this in the middle. Is that okay? If I leave it like this, is that good? Because it'll get both of us. All right,
Okay.
That's the point. So conflict is natural. Conflict within marriages is natural. At some level, it's inevitable. And the infographic that you see, by the way, we're going to be sharing a whole lot of infographics, videos, etc. Whatever resources we share, sometimes they'll have QR codes. This one, somehow the QR code fell off the slide. Somebody was editing it late at night and moved it to the side and forgot to bring it back in, but that's all right. You can get it off our website, thefyi.org. You can step outside at the table. You can see a lot more information. But conflict is inevitable. And in some of the research we've done, you see the different reasons why couples are in conflict. All right, so whoever's talking will basically, the black one is swallowed?
Black
he
one.
He said it was good. He said it was good, so it's for this. That's a directional mic, so it'll work. The Prophet ﷺ had conflicts in his marriage. When you think about an extreme example, think of the incidents of Ifk, where Aisha radiallahu anha was left behind in an expedition. She came a little bit after, and the rumors spread, etc. And the Prophet ﷺ had to deal with it. That was a conflict. He didn't know what to do. Aisha radiallahu anha did not know what to do, but they worked through the process. There was hurt, there was disagreement. And the point of the example is that this is natural. It happens. We are not angels. We're not superhumans. And so in the natural course of life, you will have disagreements. The question really is not if you'll have a disagreement, but when you have a disagreement, what do you do with it? How do you process? How do you work through those disagreements? And inshallah, today, we'll try to make it very practical. This is not a theoretical lecture. We'll actually talk about specific disagreements Samir and I have had and how we work through it, and hopefully give you some tools of how to work through that process, inshallah.
So in order to do that, we want to be able to give you some models, support, and resources. So what I want to start off today with is first kind of giving you a conceptual model to think about when you think about the conflicts that you have. Then what we'll do is we'll give you a theoretical example of a situation that maybe many of you guys can relate to. And then we have to figure out an issue that we want to share with you all and kind of show you how to work through that. And ask you to also, if you have time, to work through it yourself, okay? So we're going to try to do all four. I apologize if we don't get through all four. We're going to try, though, inshallah. But we want to keep it real. So I want to first start off with this model to kind of give you to think about. And as I explain this model, I want you to think about your fights, right? The conflicts that you have had to help you build an understanding as to, okay, what may be going on here. Right? And so what we notice is oftentimes between spouses, something may be going on. One spouse gets triggered by the other spouse, right? And in being triggered, you have a reactive feeling, emotion to the other person, right? So say, for example, he says something, does something, and something about what he says or does triggers me. Maybe it's because of past history, past experiences. Maybe in terms of our relationship history. Maybe it's because of childhood experiences that I've had. Maybe I'm just tired and exhausted and it's kind of the situational moment at the time. You know, many different reasons, but whatever it is, it's a reactive feeling that kind of results in me getting triggered. Then what happens is when that reaction occurs, usually we've said something to ourselves, meaning, oh, he doesn't care for me, he doesn't love me, no matter what I do is not good enough, et cetera, et cetera. You know your own story that you tell yourself, right? So oftentimes, that's what's happening. And then what happens is when you've told your story to yourself, and meaning making is another way to see it, then what happens is you take action. Your behavioral reaction, you cope yourself. Sometimes it's to kind of protect yourself. Sometimes it's to attack them. There's many different reasons. We're going to go through all of that. But I wanted to share this conceptual model. It's called emotional focused therapy for those of you who are clinicians in the audience. But really helping you then take this model and think, okay, what does it actually look like? Okay, so that's what we're going to do now.
So here's a particular example. Right? You think about a couple, Hana and Adil, and they have kids, and the kids are fighting. I think that's a very normal example, right? Kids are fighting.
Raise your hand if it does. It's something that everyone can relate to. Okay.
So the kids are fighting. So Hana tells Adil, hey, I'm busy right now. Can you take care of this? So Adil walks in, and he says, cut it out. Just stop it. Why are you guys always fighting? Now the kids get mad. Like you don't even understand the situation. They storm off. The fighting still continues, perhaps in a different room or quieten down for a little bit, but you haven't really resolved the problem. And now Hana is upset with her husband. I asked you to take care of the problem. You just made it worse. She gives him this look like, can't get anything right. Right? Yeah, we've all been there. And now you got this cold stream of air coming through the room. Everybody's upset with each other. And then after a while, I was like, what? You asked me to take care of the problem. I went in, I took care of it. From his perspective, I took care of it. Told him to cut it out. And I was like, well, but they're not talking to each other. They're giving each other the cold treatment, so to speak. And if they don't talk through what happens a lot of times, that one day becomes 2 days, becomes 3 days, becomes a week. And now on that cold relationship, you start imposing other things on top of it. Well, it's not the first time you did it. Remember that other time? Remember that other time? Remember? And now, in your mind, without saying anything, you've built up that this is a huge issue. And you now have this huge cold relationship that's happening between the two of them.
So again, we're going to look at that situation a little bit now, a little more deeply, right? So in that situation, both people were triggered, right? Hannah and Adel were both triggered. And because of that triggering and the process that went through, they went through this negative cycle, right? Where, they asked for help. That was, when you're asking for help, support, you're trying to connect, you're trying to get some help, connection, are you there for me, right? That's essentially what you're asking. Are you there for me? Can you help me out? And your ability to do so or not do so results in either connection or disconnection, right? Now, when you have, in this situation, experience a situation, Hannah asks for help, Adel comes, makes the situation worse, she gets frustrated, he gets frustrated, you're having disconnection happening, right? And with that disconnection that's just happened, she's thinking to herself, like, why can't he get anything? Why can't he do it right? I deal with the kids all day, every day, and they don't react this way. Why don't they listen? Why doesn't he know how to deal with the kids? And he's thinking to himself, like, I did what she told her. It's not my fault the kids got upset. It's not my fault they started crying. And she doesn't appreciate me. And he's starting to say things to himself, right? That conversation, that inner dialogue is happening, right? And so then what happens is oftentimes we kind of go into protection mode. Because of that connection being disrupted, that bond gets disrupted, then we protect ourselves because we feel hurt. And when we protect ourselves, there are very different things that we end up doing, right? And so sometimes people pursue the other spouse. You blame and criticize, and you're like, why can't you do it right? What's wrong with you? And we say very hurtful things to our spouses. The people that we love the most, we hurt the most, right? Not because we're doing it intentionally, but because we're hurting as well. And we want to deal with the pain. And when we're not doing work intentionally, we end up doing more harm, right? And so some of us are pursuers. We want to address the issue. We want to address the fight, right? Some of us withdraw, right? We're like, let me just not do any more damage. Let me just be quiet. Let me just go into my man cave or woman cave and just kind of hide out until the ice kind of withdraws. We have different approaches, right? And your approach may change over time, right? Initially, I might have been a pursuer, and then situation happens. Then I guess there's no point. There's no reason why I should continue. I start withdrawing. And then if two people are withdrawers in a situation, you have this huge wall that starts developing in the conflict, and nothing gets resolved, nothing gets addressed, right? And so recognize what you're doing in the relationship and start labeling it. Say, hey, I think I'm withdrawing. Can you help me out, right? You're asking for the support. You're telling them, this is what's going on. And so recognizing that sometimes to protect ourselves, and we think to protect our relationship, we withdraw, right? And so that's, those are the things that you want to think about. The other thing that we want to, do you want to do this one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Everything okay?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. One thing I realized I forgot, in most of the other sessions, they've been asking folks to please not be doing any kind of video or audio recording. The sessions are being recorded, so they've got a professional recording us. Inshallah, it'll be on YouTube, so you'll get the full recording. If you want to take photos of the slides, by all means, no issues there. Just repeating the request there. All right, so what's going on here? You've got folks who are annoyed with each other. You're frustrated. Both are probably tired. And on Hannah's perspective, she's frustrated that the noise was happening. The noise was ongoing. I asked you to take care of the issue. You didn't handle it. Now she's angry. From Adil's perspective, I've been dealing with it all day at work. I'm tired. I came in. I tried to do my best. clearly my effort is not being appreciated. Like, I did try, and you're not appreciative of what I am doing. And so you're also angry. It's like, what is this? It's never good enough. I'm never going to get up to it. And you've got annoyance. That's a 15-minute warning already? Whoa. All right, so you're really annoyed and exhausted. But underneath all of these, you've got a whole lot of other emotions that are triggering you. That, you are overwhelmed, you're tired, you're hurt, you're anxious, you've got all the previous relationship issues, you've got a whole lot of previous history that are built into this. And so it's showing up as anger. And for us to deconstruct this, we have to understand where this anger is coming from. What is underlying this anger? And to be able to address those essential topics, inshallah. I think we'll have to move a little bit faster to give a real example.
So the anger that we often show is kind of the behavioral reactions, the emotions, and all that. But oftentimes what's underneath all of that is the need for connection. We're angry because we love our spouse, and it hurts when they hurt us, right? And oftentimes there are these what we call attachment needs, that something about the reaction, what they did, impacted us at a deeper level. You communicate, or you get the feeling that, I don't really matter to them. Their actions, whether it's leaving the socks on the floor, or whether it's, the kids doing something, or whatever it is, right? I'm not special enough for my spouse to do what I need them to do. Or I'm not valued. I'm not important to them. Because if I were important, they would have made that change. They would have understood. And so we say those things. Or I'm not feeling safe. Because if I say something, what I say will come back to haunt me. Or it'll be used against me, right? Or that maybe I'm just not lovable. They don't love me. And so we have these hurts that get worse and worse, and we're assigning meaning to the action. So when we think about Hana and Adil, him kind of dealing with the kids in that way, she may feel that, look, I've been working all day. Can you just not do 10 minutes with the kids? Like, there is that frustration of, am I not good enough for you? Do you not value my time and effort to just 10 minutes? Like, it's not asking that much. And for his perspective, he might feel like no matter what he does, it's not good enough. No matter what I do, she never appreciates me. And so that's kind of going to the attachment need that may be going on. And so you see the same concept that I shared earlier. This is kind of a simplified version, right? So when you have this conflict in your marriage, look at your emotional reaction. What's going on and what's underneath, right? Listen to the inner dialogue. What are you saying to yourself? What's that story? How are you explaining their actions, and how is it impacting you? And what are you actually doing? Because what you're doing is due to those unmet attachment needs, that feeling loved, feeling respected, etc. So that's kind of the theory that we shared, then kind of the application into Hana and Adil, and now let's actually practice.
All right. So this graphic here is called the emotion wheel, and I would recommend that you have it handy. At least for the guys, we are usually not very good at expressing our emotions and diving deeper. I am horrible at that, so I have it on my phone. It's under my favorites, because I always pull it out, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to need some help figuring things out. You start off by analyzing a situation. We'll take Hana and Adil's situation. Like, we've had similar situations all the time. Like, you are angry, you are fearful, you are sad. You have that initial high-level emotion. And then you say, what's underlying this? And let's take one of these as an example. And I'll take fearful in the top right, if you will, the orange-yellowish thing between the teal green and the red salmon color. At least that's on my screen. I don't know what's on that screen. You know, projector colors can differ. But anyway, so you've got fearful up there. And underneath that fearful, you ask yourself, why are you fearful? Are you scared? Are you anxious? Are you insecure? Do you feel rejected? Do you feel threatened? And those are things that are leading you to become fearful. And these are questions that you will ask yourself, and perhaps with the help of the spouse. And then you go a level deeper, because you're trying to get to the deepest point where you can then try to address some of these questions and start making a list of emotions that are making you go in that way.
Yeah. So again, and again, some of us are very verbal and can identify emotions are really great. But those of you who may struggle, it's good to come up with this as a starting point, right? And so what I recommend is starting from the center and looking into that color. It's a nice place to kind of think, oh, yeah, I'm kind of anxious or I'm fearful, but what else might I be feeling? What else may be going on here? And first, just focus on that emotion, right? So again, I'll give an example maybe. We're trying to figure out examples, but we have so many, we don't know where to begin, alhamdulillah. But starting off with, one time, let's see, which one do you want to do?
We don't have much time. So
okay, we don't have much time. Okay. So one of the times, one of the things that happened was that, Nadeem wanted to go someplace, and I was like, no, absolutely no, because, it was we hadn't had that much time as a family, and we were stressed and we were exhausted, and him going was just going to contribute to more of that, right? And so with that, I expressed kind of my need, right? And when I expressed that need, he didn't understand my need. And he went ahead and did whatever he wanted to do. How many of you guys have watched Frozen before? Raise your hand. Right. Yeah, that was the state of our house for a long time.
So in that aspect, the key thing is when you're thinking about the interactions that's taking place, it's not necessarily that I'm ignoring you. I don't care what your need is. I don't care how you feel. Like when I went ahead, it was my understanding of her need, my understanding of where she was coming from, and then a rationalization in my mind, hey, you know what? This is not really that big a deal. Like, I think this is what she means by this, and I can still do both. I can go hang out, and I can come and be with her too, and the kids. I can do both. I don't have to pick one or the other. So I've rationalized this in my mind because I didn't really fully understand the depth of the need, whereas on her side, she's like, I've just expressed my need, and you're totally ignoring it, and you're walking right away. So it's not always a case of I'm purposely ignoring the need. But sometimes we think, no, it's not. On both sides, people think I'm actually trying to do the right thing. I'm actually trying to be helpful and be attentive to the needs of the other person. But in reality, we're not so well.
And I think it's a really important point to remember. Oftentimes, the hurts that we've done to each other over the years makes us tell a story about our spouse. That he doesn't love me, he doesn't care for me, I don't matter to him, right? And that's exactly what I did, right? I said to myself, gosh darn, we've been married how many years? 26 years. Sorry. I'm getting old too.
Usually I get in trouble for not remembering the dates. Like, you're all witnesses. She messed up. We got it on video.
26 years. And I was like, gosh darn, I shared the red line, and you crossed that red line. I must not matter to you. That's the story I told myself. I'm not valuable enough that when I've told you this thing, and so I'm having this, I was rageful. Like, this is the angriest I've ever been in my life, right? I was very angry. I was hurt. I felt like I didn't matter. I was just all over the place, right? having this emotion wheel helps guide you to identify what are all the layers of emotion that's going on. And if you're able to start with that, then you go to the next set of questions and start going deeper, right? What's triggering the emotion? What are the thoughts, actions, observations, assumptions that I'm having about my spouse that makes me think negatively about him and the situation? When have you felt like this way before? Right? And why is it coming now? And what beliefs do I have about myself and others and the world that's impacting your feeling? Now, coming back to that situation, right? That incident was after 2 or 3 years of just sheer pressure. And that pressure we'll talk about in the next session. But a lot of that pressure.
The next session.
What's the next?
Not wanting to leave people hanging there. That sheer pressure was looking after our parents, elder care. So the next session we'll be talking about elder care.
You had me scared. I thought the next session was pornography too. I was like, no, that's not what I meant.
Well,
no, that is a session after that. Okay. But so we had an immense period of huge marital stress, right? And in that period, that was when this situation came up, right? So you have to think about the situation of what's going on. And it made me realize when I went through this process of where have I felt this way before? Well, growing up, right? Oftentimes I felt like I didn't matter. And so now someone who I care for like so much and is such an important part of my life has done something from my perspective, not his perspective, from my perspective that made me feel like I don't matter. That hurts at a very deep level, right? And again, he has no clue at how much it's hurting me. Miskeen, he's like, okay, no big deal. Okay, yeah, that's your opinion, this is my opinion, we're gonna go on, right? Until he had to experience Frozen for a while. And then he's like, ooh, now what do I do? And so that was how I triggered him, and you wanna share what your reaction was? Yeah.
So I was lost. I was like, I have no clue where this is coming from. This came straight out of left field. I totally didn't expect any of this. We were having great conversations. I reacted, I thought, in an appropriate fashion. I was doing all the right things, and yet you're so angry, so upset. I just don't get it. But alhamdulillah, we've been married long enough, and we're close.
26 years now.
26 years, according to
Now
the
I
calculation.
remember.
Yeah. And we're also very close. Alhamdulillah, we've had a good, strong marriage that we could ask each other. It's like, hey, this is not right. Something's wrong. So what is happening? And you go through and start asking each other more questions. And this is where that the emotion wheel comes in handy. When I saw people taking pictures, they'll come out fuzzy. I suggest you search it online and then download an image, so that way you'll be able to zoom in and get into the actual images. That'll be much better quality, inshallah. But then we started asking, and I was not very good at using that emotion wheel. I don't know how to go from that top level down. But alhamdulillah, Simar kept asking me questions. Well, why are you angry? Is it because of this, 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 this? And you turn each one of those sub-levels into a question. Do you feel exhausted? Do you feel this? Do you feel this? Do you feel, well, yeah, I kind of feel this a little bit. Yes, I can feel this a little bit. Yes, I feel, okay, if you're doing this, then next level. How are you getting to this feeling? How are you feeling? And it walks you through from that top level to the bottom level. And then when you get to that bottom level, then you're able to say, okay, now we can do something about this. We can actually try and take concrete action. Otherwise, you're angry. Why? How? It's such a high level emotion that you're not able to address it. But when you get down deeper, you're able to break it down into specific, very manageable pieces that you can actually try working on. It's like, oh, now I understand why you're so angry. You are actually asking me to sit with the kids and be with the kids When you said take care of the problem, it wasn't just go yell at the kids and have them move to a different room and continue fighting. You wanted me to actually sit with the kids. I was like, oh, I thought you wanted the noise to go away. And so the noise did go away. It went to the basement. Problem solved. No, you didn't want the noise to go away. You wanted me to sit there, deal with the kids, adjudicate if needed be, figure out, bring them in, calm them down, etc. There's so much that was said in that statement of take care of the problem. And when I got angry, it was also a whole lot of different statements built into, well, I did take care of the problem. But what did I take care of? It was all my understanding. And going through these question after question after question helps to break it down into manageable pieces, brings out a lot of our assumptions, a lot of our projections. As Samira mentioned, our history, that, 10 years ago, before marriage, 30 years ago, something had happened, and I'm thinking this is the exact same situation being repeated. And I'm like, I have no clue what happened 30 years ago. I wasn't there. This is not the same situation. But you're projecting into that. And unless you break it apart and tease it apart, it's very difficult to deal with the situation. All right, we're out of time. So maybe do the quick summary.
Yeah. So if you remember what we did, we started off shared a theory, a way of thinking about our conflict, right? Encourage you to then take that theory and think and analyze your conflicts. What is going on underneath your emotions? Make sure what's going on underneath kind of your reactions. What's going on in terms of your behavioral response to your spouse, and recognize your role, but then also how it's activating your spouse, right? And as you do that, reach out to each other and say, hey, it seems like we're going into this infinity circle. Believe me, with the clients, the patients that I've worked with, just that one piece of awareness makes a huge difference. Because you're not assuming the worst of my spouse, that, oh, he or she did this on purpose. Oh, he or she does not love me. It's more of like, okay, you did this, and this is what it's doing to me. Let's address it. Let's talk about it. Let's grow more together so that we understand each other, right? And so reaching out to your spouse and learning how to express a way to positively connect with each other. When he was able to learn that, like, hey, when you did this, it made me feel like I don't matter to you. And he was like, what? How could that be? But I was like, these are all the behaviors that you did. This is a story that I've told about myself. And he's like, oh my God, like, yes, we can still disagree about like why I did what I did, but now I understand you better.
Inshallah, we'll go to questions. I want to make one statement. Shaitan is whispering in our ears constantly. Shaitan would love nothing better than to split the spouses. But keep in mind that you got married and you love each other. You actually care about each other. And so even though superficially it might look like it's a tough time, don't let Shaitan deceive you. You care about each other, you love each other, have a positive outlook on the other person, and try to work things out, inshallah.
May Allah reward you both for all of that information. Alhamdulillah, there's a lot of questions. We are going to get into them in just 1 minute. I do want to remind everyone that the FYI table is right outside this room, so please make sure to visit that table after the session to get resources about marriage and parenting and any other topics you want that we do research on, inshallah. And now for the questions. And again, we are collecting questions on the MassCon app. So the first question is, how do I approach a conversation with my spouse when I feel my spouse is not supporting me, my work, and my endeavors? So to repeat the question, how do I approach a conversation where I address feeling unsupported in my work, my endeavors, and my career from my spouse?
I'm sure everybody has felt this, right? And I think part of that is oftentimes what we do is unintentionally, we say it in a way that puts the other person on the defense. And so you really want to bring them down. And so I would be like, and this is an issue we struggled with too, unknowingly. And it was more of kind of saying, look, I know and I trust your intention is not to negatively put me down or hurt me. but when you do X, Y, or Z, that behavior, this is how it impacts me, right? You're giving him or her the benefit of the doubt. You're identifying the behavior that is hurting, and you tell them this is hurting, and you say, can we talk about it? Can we have a conversation, right? Because oftentimes, and particularly women, what we tend to do, and I'm not saying men don't do it, I'm just saying, just in general, women tend to kind of absorb it, and then we explode like a volcano. And that's what happened in that situation. 7 years, 8 years, 20, I'm like, and then finally I lost it, and he was like, what just happened, right? Because I kept stuffing it. And I'd be like, oh, it's okay, manish, whatever. I didn't say manish, obviously, Urdu speaking. So, but we say stuff like that, right? And we kind of let it go. And he's in the dark the whole time. And that's not fair to him. I'm not setting him up for success. So it's really important that we communicate. But we communicate in a way that doesn't put them on the defensive. Right?
All right, next question, inshallah. Can you talk on how to create and uphold boundaries, such as with in-laws, privacy within the relationship, and household responsibilities?
You want to talk about this in the next session or here?
Well, we can talk both.
Okay. So some of this, inshallah, we'll talk about in the next session when we talk about elder care, because then you've got your parents, the in-law parents, and how do you create boundaries, etc. Inshallah. Okay.
But do you want to just add one?
But you add something. I lost my train of thought.
Yeah. So I think there are a bunch of things that we need to think about. So I'll ask more questions and then try to give you principles. So one of the things to really think about is when you're talking about in-laws, and to recognize that sometimes everyone has different family cultures. Like our family culture is very different than his family culture. And so really kind of having those conversations about what family culture or family norms are. Also, especially, and the reason why we're bringing this up in the elder care session is oftentimes we feel uncomfortable if our parents say, oh, come over Friday night, come over Saturday night, come over Sunday night. Well, that's every single night of the week now, right? Of the weekend, right? And so at what point do you also need to give your family, your nuclear family that you're developing and creating, that time and space? In some cultures, there's no concept of boundaries. I'm coming from the South Asian culture, and ain't no boundaries. And so that's very challenging. And so usually what I recommend, remember, the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, were in which everyone has a right. Your body has a right. Your family, your deen has a right. And so recognizing your family also has a right. And so are you giving everybody their rights? And if your family, your nuclear family, doesn't have time to even bond, how are you going to develop those strong connections? Right?
I'll add a couple of thoughts here. Sorry, I lost my train of thought initially. So one of the things, sometimes we come with assumptions. And with those assumptions, we move forward. So for many folks, the assumption is that in terms of boundaries with in-laws, that if we're all together, our children will also develop together. They'll appreciate the grandparents. We will appreciate the in-laws, etc. But sometimes spending all the time together is not always the best thing. You do need separate time. You do need personal time. You need individual time. And then you need a couple time. And then you need the family time. And then you need the time with the extended family. Each one has a different role. But when you're discussing this with your spouse, they may not be thinking about it this way. They're like, I can do all 5 in one. No, it doesn't work that way. Because as soon as you start talking to the kids are not going to open up to you with the grandparents sitting there. Because the grandparents, loving as they are coming from a particular mindset, a particular worldview. And the child says, I did X, you did what? They're never going to bring that up in front of the grandparents. You'll be lucky if they bring that up in front of the parents. If you really want to have honest discussions, you need to have separate time. If you do not have that separate time, it is important to bring it up to your spouse and let them know we are oblivious to the reality of our children. They're going through a whole lot of issues that they are not raising because we keep spending time all together. And we don't know what's going on in their lives really. If you want to know and not get shocked that when they turn 18 or 20 or 25 and a certain issue hits you in the face, like, well, where did this come from? Well, it was bubbling the whole time. You just never gave them the opportunity to raise the question to you. So with that type of questioning, I think your spouse will appreciate, yeah, you know what, we need to have boundaries. Have time Friday night with the in-laws, Saturday night is our family time, Sunday night, whatever, or something else. Give each one its proper due and right.
And we do need to spend time investing in our relationships, right? And learning how to improve. Like, this is a session where we just kind of put the seed in. There's so much more that we need to do. I mean, and it's really important. I mean, and going back to that one frozen incident that I talked about earlier, as a result of our multiple communications and conversations, we realized that one of the things that we needed to do is to, in the early years of our marriage, we read a lot, we discussed a lot of books on marriage, and we listened to videos, and we did a lot of that. And then the kids came, and then the grandparents came, and we had no time for ourselves. So after that incident, we realized, okay, like, we need to work on our marriage. And we started reading books together. And we started making sure we keep the books and kind of relationship building conversations, because there's a lot of hard discussions. There's a lot of tears. There's a lot of kind of going back into the cave and kind of like, okay, what does this all mean for us as a relationship, right? There's that happening. But you need to separate that and also have time to build your connection and having kind of dating each other, not dating in the sense of dating, but in the sense of spending time with each other, positive time, not necessarily just always working on what's bad. And so really making sure that you do have that time. Now, how much time you have, it's going to differ if you're early in your marriage versus you've got kids, versus if you've got kids and elders, versus if you're an empty nester, right? But make sure you're constantly working on your relationship.
One more question.
All right, so we are going to ask one more question, inshallah, but again, quick reminder that our table is right outside the doors. Please make sure to visit the table to get more resources, and all of these resources are online, inshallah. There's a lot of questions we're not going to get through, but if you look at those resources, inshallah, that will help answer some of these questions.
One thing, for those of you, if you sent a question and we didn't answer it, if you keep sending those questions, we collect those questions at the end of the day, and we start creating resources. So if you're on, if you sign up for this, over the next while, we're going to try to make those resources available for you to help you understand and help you out in your relationship. And also, I would also ask, as you're doing that, please, whatever you've benefited, please make sure to share that with others and support the work that we're doing.
If you missed the QR code, I went by fast, the table outside has a QR code to sign up for the email list. Sorry, question.
All right, last question, inshallah. How do I navigate a relationship with my spouse when they say they don't want to talk or they use physical intimacy to resolve the conflict?
You want me to do it?
Yeah, start off.
Okay, I'll start it off and then he'll add on to it. So oftentimes, it could be many different reasons, right, where your spouse does not want to talk about it. It could be they just don't know how to talk about things, right? It could be there's so much baggage, so much that they don't know how to talk about the issues and matters, and they don't feel like they can effectively talk about the content and issues. So, for example, oftentimes, and I'm just going to stereotype, it may not be the case, and sometimes it's a different way. Sometimes the women like to talk about different things, and because we are so verbal, we don't realize we are a threat, right? Because if a man doesn't know how to communicate his emotions and thoughts, which we need to help coach them because that may be our strength, not all cases. If they feel like in the process of talking, you're on their side and you're helping to coach them, it's less threatening. But if it's one person kind of dominating the conversation, who wants to go into a conversation like that?
So I'll address this very honestly from a guy's perspective. So when we got married, how many years ago?
26 years ago.
26 years ago. She would come every night and let's talk and what happened during the day. I'm like, cool, 5-minute conversation, right? How are things are good, a couple of high-level stuff. 3 hours later, I'm still describing. And I told her, these are nightly interrogation sessions. That's the word I used. I said, well, this is like, you're sucking my brain out. I need a machine, the Vulcan mind meld from Star Trek, like, just put your fingers up there. I couldn't take it. I was like, I have never in my life communicated so much. Like, we did not, my family was not the communicative style. Like, we had discussions, but not the level of discussions. It took me a long time to get used to this. But the nice thing was, we were able to discuss and say, listen, unless we talk, we're going to be making assumptions about each other. And if you have enough assumptions that are built, you have a house of cards that's waiting to fall apart. That to me was very scary. I did not want my family to fall apart. So yes, communicating was tough. But I was like, I'm going to bite the bullet. I'm going to get into this. I'm going to figure out how to communicate, how much to communicate, et cetera, et cetera. And at the same time, I'm going to teach her there's something called over-communicating. Like, you got to, meet me in the middle here. It's like, I don't need to know every single detail of every single minute of the day. Because 8 hours of the day does not translate into 8 hours of conversation, right? When you take minutes of the meeting, it's hours of meeting turned into minutes of reading. There's a reason for that. I need minutes here. But so the point was, you have to come to that recognition that communication is critical. It is critical, not just important. It is critical. Otherwise, you are making assumptions. Like it or not, you may think you understand the situation. Believe you me, you are making some sort of assumption somewhere along the lines as to what has happened during the day or what happened in a particular situation, unless you actually talk and discuss. And then you have a very different perspective, a very enriching perspective that helps you understand your spouse, your children, or whatever the situation might have been. And then over time, inshallah, it gets better. It is tough. No doubt it is tough. Guys generally are socialized not to talk much. We just play ball. We don't really talk. We don't discuss. The ladies, they get together over a meal. They'll spend 6 hours over that one cheesecake that 6 people share. And they're talking. The guys are like, 1 piece of cheesecake between 4 of us? Like half an hour, we're done. We're out of there. Let's go to the next thing. You learn to appreciate the discussions. But you have to think through, and you need to be able to convince the other person that this discussion matters. It is important. It is for our collective benefit.
I wanted to address the second part of that question that we didn't get to, if you don't mind. Apologize. Sorry, Dora. The thing I was going to say is also that question is also talking about the fact that communication part is really important in intimacy. Right? For females, oftentimes females, if we're not able to be emotionally connected, and oftentimes it's through conversations, and if that emotional connection is not there, intimacy is very hard, right? And intimacy is needed for the connection. But for men, oftentimes, intimacy is how you feel connected. So you see the disconnect that we have and the challenge that we have. And what's really amazing about our deen is how the Prophet ﷺ told men to pay attention. Make sure your wives are fulfilled, right? And so part of that is making sure they're emotionally connected so they are stimulated enough to want to be physically connected, right? And so really it's important for us to have conversation of what increases connection. Physically, emotionally, psychologically, all of it, right? Because then that is another factor that we don't talk about in our marriages. We're often not taught about the different, things to consider that can have an impact in your intimacy. Emotional connection and communication is a major factor in that for women. So I think that's another thing to kind of think about as well.
All right, with that, we are 10 minutes over, so we are going to end the session, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair for both of you for coming here today and sharing.